For the main live setup, I've got the Arturia Keylab 61 Mark II going MIDI out with a standard MIDI DIN cable to the MIDI in on the Behringer 2600 Gray Meanie. And my 3 VCOs are all sawtooth. Tuning is unison. I will explain. VCO 3 looks a little offset compared to them. I will explain that. If you want to see my filter settings, I have the ADSR controlling the VCF, and I've got the AR controlling the VCA. And down here is where the magic is. What I plan on doing is when I need the dual portamento, I have the upper voice in the control section going to the lag processor, and then the output is to that weirdly tuned VCA3. For some reason, the lag processor kind of offsets the tuning a bit. So I have that lag processor as currently as the portamento for my double oscillator thing. So that is the setup I will be using when I want to go one oscillator. Now, if with portamento, I can take this out and put this into the upper voice only, into the keyboard control, and then in the mixer turn down the lag processor 1, and now it's just oscillator 1 and 2. I have duophonic now, whether it's in dual mode. And if I want portamento on both voices, that's portamento on both. Put the portamento down, move this to the lag processor, turn down VCO 1, turn up VCO 3, and I get that Slipperman Lurker smear sound. Let's do a few of these. Okay, for the next song, Three Sides Live song, I've got oscillator 1 and 2 up. So what I did was I took the upper voice out of the lag processor into the keyboard CV of oscillator 1, brought 1 up in the mix, 3 down in the mix, turned up the portamento just a little bit, and I can play duophonic. Remember, this sound is blended with the poly section of the quadra, which is polyphonic, no portamento, and it's going through a distortion pedal, the MXR Distortion Plus, and then it is also going through the Boss chorus in stereo. So this is half of the ABCAP sound, but any kind of the little gliding you hear, the portamento is this layer. Let's hear some of this. Follow You, Follow Me, that was duophonic with portamento on just one oscillator. So I need to turn my portamento off. Upper voice now into the lag processor, going out to VCO3. I've got VCO2 and 3 in the mix. I have to make my envelope a little more Follow You, Follow Me like. So I already had brought up in the AR and the ADSR the release. I need to kind of bump up the tack. Now remember, he's doing the volume pedal swells on the verse part. So just because I'm going directly into my studio setup, I will be, I'll just probably use the VCA mixer and just do them by hand, because you'd use the volume pedal to bypass the portamento. So in my examples, just know that I'm doing that by hand. Okay, beginning in the cage medley. To get a monophonic sound for the main lead, I actually just unplugged this upper voice, period. I'm gonna have to plug this in in the break before Cinema Show. Can I pull that off? Oh, let's see. Maybe someone has a better idea. This is my first foray into semi-modular. So I'm back in the mixer, VCO 1 and 2. I brought portamento up. Like I said, unplug the upper voice, put it into mono, so I get... went back to my ADSR. See, I have a decay and a sustain to get that. Bow, wow, 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 to get that. A little bit of release. There's not much on it, and there's no attack. So let's see how this goes. part of the Cinema Show lead in the cage medley, I'm going to need 2 voices eventually. I may just have to tweak. In fact, let's do that. Let's just pretend that I'm coming from In the Cage, and the only thing that I've changed is the envelope, the AR, to kind of mimic that attack of the pro soloist violin sound. I do hear that change in the first part. So I'll play that first half on this patch. For the next section of Cinema Show, I plugged the upper voice into there. I changed the envelope so I would get a hard attack. And that LFO you've been hearing since I started this is the additional LFO that would be on the keyboard version of the ARP 2600. I forget that model number, but there was a keyboard that added an LFO, so it's built into here. So let's check out the next section of Cinema Show, which is duophonic. For this final lead of the Three Sides Live sounds that I'm trying to get is Slipper Men from the In the Cage medley. So I pulled the upper voice out of oscillator 1, put it back into the lag processor, turned down the volume of oscillator 1, turned up that VCO 3, and then let's mess around with the envelope because there's a no attack, there's some release. I don't think there's a lot of the sustain. I think the decay, so I'll have to remember to do all that. Can I do this? I gotta practice. I really want to. I think this sounds as good as my Odyssey setup, but it's less gear and better than the software. So I don't think we're ever going to hold a note long enough to hear that LFO. Let's check it out. final piece of the puzzle here for me, and using this live with the Genesis show, was to get the squonk and squonk reprise of Los Endos pitch bends, which were done using Aftertouch on the Pro Soloist and the Quadra. But on the 78 tour, he was just doing them as like, you know, playing legato with some portamento on. And if you listen to the end of the live Los Endos on 78, he's doing like a wacky, maybe like between two octaves, you know, wee, 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 you know, something like that. But on Seconds Out, and then the 80 shows with the Quadra, he's doing something like this. Between like a minor third. So this isn't perfect, but I'm using MIDI to do this. I am going USB now into my Mac because I'll be using MainStage Live for some other sounds. And then I have an external MIDI channel. In fact, I can bring this up here. External MIDI channel, you know, output to the 2600. The input is coming in from my Arturia, which I would normally have plugged into the Mac anyway to control the sampled Quadra polysynth sounds. So, and I'm using less cables. Isn't that fantastic? And someone told me about this, by the way. I know this. I use modifier. I did it in my Korg Odyssey videos, sound design videos, where I used a modifier to do, you know, Aftertouch pitch bend. So, and then on the user section of my, oh no, that's already, oh my God, the dust. So I'm doing USB MIDI out now on my Arturia. So I went into Synth Tribe, which is the Behringer app, and there's not much to change except the pitch bend semitones, which I have as 3 half steps. So I can get that. But when I'm playing that riff, I'm just gonna have to cheat and do, cause I can't, let's see if we can fine tune the pitch bend. Nah. It's stepping a little bit. So I'm really only using all this work to do the pitch bend for part of that riff and then the end of Los Endos, right? Isn't that, am I dedicated? So play it, then bend it, Aftertouch, then play it. Legato with the lag processor portamento on one oscillator. Bend it, Aftertouch. Bend it, play it, legato. Right? And then the end of Los Endos. I think it works a little bit better at 100%. So there you go. I mean, I might be the only person that does this in the end. Use a Behringer 2600 to play Quadra leads in a Genesis tribute band. But I have to say, I've scratched the surface with this thing, and it's really cool. Look what I have above it. My favorite synth, vintage Mini Moog. Use it all the time. And I do like the Odyssey very much. And this is really exciting to me. And the more I learn about CV, using control voltage, and maybe someday get an external sequencer, I think this will be, pardon me, I think this will be a really cool studio piece. But I was under the gun to figure out all this stuff for gigs. And I have to think this might be how Tony Banks used it. I mean, well, I'll tell you what he did. He definitely didn't have because he uses the single portamento on the 78 tour. I'm talking about live use. He really exploited the tuning of oscillators in the 70s. But for a live synth, just listen to Cinema Show on 78. He's got, I think what he's really got is 2 saws, and then he uses interval latch to get the octave spread. And he uses, and then he's got 1 set at a pulse for square. And he's like moving the pulse width slider for like the violin sound in Cinema Show, and then the Telstar sound he probably moves it back to the center for continuing in Cinema Show. So Cinema Show required quite a bit of tweaking on this. For my fall shows, we'll be doing the 3 Sides Live medley version of Cinema Show. So more envelope and portamento and LFO tweaking, but not changing any sound waves in the VCOs. So there we go. I'm using it live. I'll use it with my Space Echo Boss pedal.